Hello. Scott Sound Will Power and Lady Pink. Give it up.
All right. Thank you, Justin. You did great. Congratulations. Do I need that mic? Yeah, okay. Give it up for Justin, everybody. Overspray. Lady Pink. Lady Pink. How cool is this? Lady Pink in the house. You know, sometimes I think I have the best job in the world. I get to sit down with legends like you, Lady Pink. It's an honor. Thank you for doing this and being here with us today.
It's an honor for me to be here. Thank you for the invite. Who could have imagined that I'd be sitting here having a conversation with you?
Well, I tell you what, I'm so grateful. In the beautiful Fox Theater, everybody. How great is this room, right? So, Lady Pink, I want to get right into this. And by the way, I've so enjoyed our conversation in the green room. Just sort of getting to know you and warming up, and it's been an honor. So, I want to start by asking about your Ecuadorian background and how it has influenced your work over the years.
So I was born in Ecuador, but I came to this country when I was about 7 years old. So honestly, it hasn't influenced my work all that much. I tried very hard to assimilate to American culture, and I think as a kid it took me a couple of years to learn how to speak English, and from then I've never looked back.
Right.
So most of my work, I feel, is influenced by the graffiti culture, and not nearly as much by my Ecuadorian heritage. I don't think until much later did I start to appreciate that.
Right, okay. So, Lady Pink, you found your tag, your pseudonym. Take us back. How did that? Tell us the origin story. How did Sandra become Lady Pink?
So initially Sandra was a very quiet, shy girl and obedient and well-educated, but by the age of 14, 15, I went over to the dark side.
Yeah!
When I smoked my first joint, kissed my first boy, then it was downhill after that. So I had a boyfriend from when I was 13 to 15, a Puerto Rican boy, really, really good-looking boy. And he was arrested for tagging up in the neighborhood, and he was one kid out of 6 in his family. They sent him to go live in Puerto Rico. Of course, he couldn't come back at 15. You don't have that kind of money. So I mourned his loss, tagging around the middle school, tagging his name, and his friends took me under their wing and taught me a proper style, because it isn't random letters. You gotta practice, and get your letters just right. So my first tag was Coke, K-O-K-E, a boy's name. And it was in Brooklyn style because I lived in Brooklyn at the time. So then I started at the High School of Art and Design, and that's in the middle of New York City, where kids from every corner of New York come and paint and paint there and study there. And that's where I met the graffiti writers that actually did subway trains. So it got to the point where the more they told me, you can't go paint the subway train because you're a girl, the more stubborn little me had to prove them wrong. So it took me a while to get them to stop saying, oh, you're just a little feminine girl and dresses, high heels and makeup. How are you going to go into the train yards? You're going to slow us down, get us arrested. Understandably, underground is every man for themselves. You cannot be held down or slowed down by someone who is inappropriately in there and can't fend for themselves. Everyone's got to be able to run and escape and do all those very difficult manual labor kind of things that most teenage girls are not that adept at. But I was physically strong and mentally strong, and I think a feminist since the very beginning. So, I got them to take me to the train yards, and then I fell in love with the adventure. It's all about fun, being down with the popular crowd, being cool, and then you get fame. You get some fame around the city, around your school, and fame is addictive. So you don't kind of want to step back from that, and you want to keep it going.
Well, and the adrenaline is addictive too,
yes,
right?
Absolutely. The adrenaline is what drives a whole lot of graffiti artists. It's exciting to have your work in a gallery and a museum. It's absolutely thrilling, and it's, and all of that, but it's not the same kind of adrenaline as doing something naughty that, in the middle of the night, and then you get away with it successfully and your train is running and it looks good even though you couldn't see it at night. You know, you did something right, and against all odds, with the minimal training, with the minimal supplies, and in the freezing cold, with the, you know, cops looking over your shoulder, and you get it done. And then that kind of adrenaline rush, there's no comparison.
Do you remember the first night you went out?
The first night I went out with my friend Ernie, and we went doing insides on a subway train, and we went to an elevated track, and that is pretty scary because you can easily fall through into the street and be run over by a car. So you got to walk very carefully. We got inside the train, and I confessed to him that I never did this before, and he confesses that he never did this before either. And we're like, oh, no. So we managed to do all the insides of that one train, tagging up with markers, and this is how you learn. And then we made it home only to get busted by our parents.
So I heard that you misspelled your name the first time. Is that true?
The first time I tagged up my name Pink. Once my friend Scene had given me the name Pink, because the letters look really good together, figured I should have a feminine name and not my ex-boyfriend's name. So I tagged up my name in spray paint in front of some guys, and I misspelled it. I forgot the letter I. I was so nervous. Yeah.
I can't spell my own name either. It's totally fine. So where did the lady come from? If you were Pink and then suddenly Lady Pink, tell that story.
So I used to read a lot of historical romances growing up since I was 12, reading Barbara Cartland and on to more racier stuff, but all about the European nobility, the aristocracy. And in high school, honestly, we were royalty. We lorded over the writer's table for 4 hours in school. We would just sit there. I'd snap my fingers, I'd get a chair. I'd snap my fingers, I'd have some kid go get me my lunch. And we were royalty, so I kind of titled myself Lady.
I'll buy you lunch any day. I'll buy you lunch any day. So obviously graffiti goes back to the caveman. I mean, humans have been writing on the walls since the beginning of time. Did you ever imagine that you would be in museums?
Absolutely not. I mean, we were kids painting trains, trying to figure out what to be when we grew up. I mean, I was majoring in architecture in high school, and I figured maybe I'll be an architect, but some of the other kids, you know, were trying to figure out what jobs to get, what to be when they grew up. College wasn't so much of an option since we were obviously not even going to class, you know, instead we were doing graffiti. So we never imagined we would be exhibiting or selling our work or would be in museums, you know, later on and have our work preserved for centuries for other people to see. No, we never imagined that. Are you kidding?
Well, take us back to those days when the so-called, you know, art world started noticing and paying attention and asking questions and inviting you in.
So one of the first exhibits was in 1980 in the South Bronx Fashion Moda, and Crash was curating it, and they had over a dozen of the best guys, the elite, the guys who had painted trains like, you know, Lee and Dondi and Futura, Crash Day, Zephyr, Kel, all of these guys. They were my heroes. I was just thrilled to meet them. They were like celebrities. Yeah. And then Crash came to my high school and invited me to exhibit with them. I was only 16 and still a toy, and I knew it. So I agreed to exhibit with them. And my very first piece was outlined by Lee. I was too nervous to do the final outline, but that's the only time I let a guy outline my piece, honestly. So I exhibited with them, but they were feeling the feminist movement too. They were feeling like they needed to be supportive. There was like, it was a sausage fest and they needed a female. I was the token female and I knew it. And that opened doors. Immediately months later, we were at the PS1, another amazing exhibit space at the new museum, and then gallery after gallery. We just kept requesting our work, and suddenly we were, you know, thrust into the fine arts, traveling and exhibiting our work. Then there was books like Subway Art, Spray Can Art, documentaries, Style Wars, motion picture, Wild Style, and that the director, Charlie Ahern, just saw everything going around him, the love story, the graffiti, the break dancers, the rappers, and put it all into a movie. And who knew that was going to still be around? We never imagined. God, it's still here.
Thank goodness it's still around. Indeed, indeed. There's so many questions, so many questions. So in terms, well, you brought it up, Wild Style. I mean, would we be here today without that movie?
No, we probably would not. That is the very first movie. Honestly, the budget for that movie was $25,000. It was pitiful. You can't do anything here for that amount of money anymore. But everybody was very real. Everybody was a real rapper, real graffiti writer.
Right.
We rented a train yard. And it was so pure and unsullied by, you know, Hollywood or the mainstream. The very next movie was Beat Street by Harry Belafonte. And that was already, you know, changed and twisted, a little watered down to be sold for the masses, kind of slicked up. But the Wild Style was very raw, was very real. We didn't take it seriously because there was such a whirlwind of activity going on, exhibits and movies, and here's just another, you know, wealthy white guy with a camera crew following us around. You know, we would just roll out of bed and start acting. No makeup, no wardrobe, no acting classes. We rewrote his script because we thought it was funny at first. He couldn't write slang. I mean, really, you need to be come from the streets in order to do proper slang.
Well, so was any of that movie improvised at all, or was it all scripted?
He tried to do a script, as in our dialogue, but yes, the storyline was scripted.
Yeah.
You know, not everything that we shot was actually in the movie. There was an attempted rape scene of me. A bunch of guys were trying to rape me, and Zara saves me. That never made it to the end of the movie. And some of my other little friends were in the Vandal Squad headquarters and stuff. That didn't make it to the end of the movie either. But so it was scripted, but the dialogue we made up ourselves.
Okay.
And there was a whole lot of cursing in that. And my mom, who didn't speak English, she came to see the movie, and then all she understood was the word fuck. And that's
the universal
and that's all
fuck.
we said. That's all we said. Oh, the shame.
I want to see the outtakes. Where are the outtakes? We want to get that published somewhere.
I know, they should publish that.
That'd be something. So clearly, I don't know if you were using this word back then, but clearly you were a feminist from day one. And with that comes moxie, it comes courage, strength, discipline, strength of body, strength of spirit, strength of mind. Do you get that from your mother?
I got that from television. No, so yes, my mother was an exceptionally strong woman. Yeah. My aunts, my family, they're quiet, genteel women, but with a core strength that is unbelievable. She came to this country not speaking the language, with no papers, and 2 little girls in tow. I mean, we all know people like that who come to this country, and the courage to try to, find a better life for your kids is absolutely amazing. And I think my mother has achieved that. I'd be one of the dreamers and have become a success from that. And not till I was 16 did I get my green card. So we were illegal immigrants here, for sure. But most of my feminist strength came from watching 1970s television, like Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
Those girls taught me that you can be beautiful and feminine and kick ass.
Yeah.
You didn't have to look like, a dyke if you didn't want to. You can be feminine, you can wear makeup and high heels and still kick somebody's ass and do your thing.
Right.
So that taught me that. I got my strength from shows like The Brady Bunch, and from Marsha and Jan and all of that, being strong and standing up for themselves as young ones. And funny thing, I got to paint with Eve Plum, Jan Brady. I invited her to come out and paint on a wall with us, and she did. I got to paint with her.
When?
This was only like 2 years ago or so.
Amazing.
I got her to come out. I was doing a feminist piece about, losing our reproductive rights and stuff by the Supreme Court. And she came out and hooked up with us. So, my hero was there. And I got to tell her this, that she inspired me in the 70s when she thinks she just did some silly TV show, a sitcom, But nope, some of that is still, paying today.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm just a simple American. I can't imagine immigrating to another country, learning another language, another culture. I barely speak English well, let alone be bilingual or trilingual. How long did it take you, like when you think back to assimilating to a new culture, learning English, it sounds like you learned English watching The Brady Bunch, for example. I have so much respect for the immigrant experience. Take us back and how were you feeling and what were you thinking in those years?
So as a little kid, I mean, we couldn't communicate in school, and my mother first put us in Catholic school, because that's all there is in Ecuador, is only Catholic school. That's what she found in New York, and it was just white kids. And that's how we learned what racism is, when they were so incredibly cruel to us. And I would go home crying all the time. And then when we were cutting school, the nuns came to my house to say we're cutting school, and it was because the kids were torturing us. So my mom found a public school full of Latin kids, Puerto Rican kids, everyone spoke Spanish. We fit right in. But it did take me about 2 years to learn English, and I learned it by watching television, watching cartoons, watching Bugs Bunny. Up to this day, I will use expressions that was coined by Bugs Bunny. Heavens to Betsy.
We love our Bugs Bunny, no doubt about it, no doubt about it. So you end up in public school, you find your people, so to speak. And was there an arts program at the public school that you were able to learn from, or was it just out on the street?
So in my middle school, my art teacher took me under his wing and encouraged me to build a portfolio and to go to art school, to go to art high school. So it was my middle school teacher who saw some talent in me, and he actually took one of my homeworks, a fabric design that you could repeat, and he sold it to a textile company for $100. I was 13 years old.
And you didn't see a dime of that, of course.
He gave that to me.
Oh, he did?
Yes,
Oh,
he did.
awesome.
But, the homework was so perfect and beautifully painted and well thought out that it actually sold.
Sounds like an A+ to me.
So I think so.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, that is a great story to highlight the importance of teachers, good teachers, the difference that good teachers make.
And I pay it forward that way. I continue doing that. I mentor young kids. I will review their portfolios, and when I find someone that's got a talented kid, I stress that they gotta send them to art school. And on art high school, if you have it in your city, you gotta send that. It gives them a leg up. It definitely helps.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because you're very serious about giving back and paying forward and helping mentor the younger generation, so to speak. Your history, I mean, we're going to bounce around today, but your history is pretty well established, certainly. But in terms of the present time, the important work you're doing right now at the Frank Sinatra School, working with youth, I know you are so passionate about this and you take it so seriously. Talk about that. Talk about not just how important it is for all of us to give back, but the importance that you feel that you need to give back.
So I have always mentored young kids, and luckily I've been getting an art education grant from the Martin Wong Foundation from San Francisco for over 24 years. So I get to pick schools, I get to pick projects that I want and work with young people painting large murals, but I also have them come work for me, and as interns, as paid assistants, and I teach them all the ropes of art. And it's not just talent, it's 50% business. So in order for them to prosper as artists, they need to learn all of this, and it's good to touch base with kids in high school. They still haven't decided if they're going to go to art college. They've got talent, but it's a little scary being an artist traditionally. But your parents want you to have a regular, normal job and not be in the entertainment, industry. So it's difficult. And knowing a real artist like myself with unorthodox origins, but being a success nevertheless, does have an impact on them. So, people took me seriously at 16, 17 years old and gave me these opportunities, and I like to do the same for other young people. Put them in a position where they have to step forward and do something gigantic and amazing and absolutely brilliant at their age. It really, really gives them confidence and, that they need to carry on as artists. So I follow some of my students over the years and I see what wonderful successes they've become, and their successes are my successes, so.
Absolutely, that's absolutely beautiful. You talked about, give it up. You mentioned just a second ago about the role of business being an artist. Historically, I think artists have often counted on their gallerist or their dealer to handle the business so that they can make the art. And for all kinds of reasons, which we won't go into today, artists go straight to collectors now, can sell, straight into the market. They don't need gallerists, they don't need dealers. But yet, you got to know business, and many artists, I think, are reluctant, to go there, so to speak. They just want to make art. Talk a little bit about the business lessons that you teach the younger artists that you're mentoring.
So unfortunately, I do have to teach some business lessons because kids, even when they go to college for art, that's not even taught to them.
Right.
They're taught art, technique, and all kinds of creative, but not being taught how to survive in the real world. Once you step out of school, my goodness, these kids know how to perish, not survive. Yeah. So teaching them business is important. I mean, no, we don't have the head for it. Most artists are, we're up there in the clouds, we're a little fluffy, we're unreliable, and sure, it's difficult to pin us down to all that business when we're so busy being creative. When you can't do it on your own, you've got to hire people to do it for you. But it all does have to be done. And we didn't learn this on our own, by the way, so we do network, and we've all stayed friends for over 40 years, and we help each other out with a little bit of knowledge, some advice, and just, knowledge of like who to work with, who not to work with, who's here to rob you, who can be trusted, all of those little things. But being able to follow up on a lot of opportunities is where artists lack. How to show up on time, how to do a proper media interview and things to say. What is your value? How do you sell your work and all of these things? Artists just can't figure that out, and you've got to teach others, mentor, and such, and pass it down, and just be an example for other artists so that they can give it a try. When we come out and paint walls in whatever city, it opens doors for other artists to do their thing. They'll find their courage, but we're just here to be the first ones out.
Yeah. When you think back on some of the tough business lessons you've learned along the way, what comes to mind?
Being a woman in the construction business, doing murals inside, a lot of businesses, there are a lot of construction guys, it's just being built, and then we come in as the mural crew, and I'm the only female. Those construction guys do not know what to do with me. You try to move a scaffold, there's like 5 guys run across the room and move it for me. Thank you for that. It's just ridiculous. But now times have changed. Now I'm seeing a pink porta potty that's put there just for the ladies, because now there's other women at the construction sites and stuff, and it's amazing to see sisters there. But initially, being the only female on a construction site and doing business with the owners who don't know how to talk to me or treat me either. Instead of talking to me about thousands of dollars, they want to send me to go fetch them some coffee. So I had to look for a partner that was a white guy, and I did. I found one. I married one 30 years ago. So when my husband, who was a notorious graffiti writer in his own right, traumatized a couple of mayors, when he asks for money with his blue eyes, he gets it. Me as a Latina female, even with my history of being in museums and all of that stuff, it doesn't get me the kind of money that a white guy does. So, I got to play that game here in this country. Oh, well. Yeah. That's what I learned. That's the harsh lesson.
Right,
This is still a white man's world.
Yeah, right.
I hate you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'm lucky to learn from you. This is it. So, to the extent that artists are storytellers, what stories are you trying to tell with your art?
So my paintings, the only clue I give you is just the title, but the paintings tell a story. It's all in there, and it is difficult for us to verbalize.
Yeah.
So the stories that I tell are about injustices, about things that are wrong in the world, about perhaps memories of our childhood, like when a group of us painting a subway car together. None of us had a camera that we took photos of that, so these are just recollections of that. But I always try to tell a story with my art. You know, not so much in the street where stories got to be brief and quick, but when I need to do political stuff, social stuff, something sick, gnarly, and twisted, that is on my fine art. So, you know, I've got things to say. I don't care if people like it, sell it, exhibit it, or show it. The important thing is I got something to say and I'm going to get it out and I'm going to put it on a painting, on a canvas, and then what happens, happens.
Bravo, that's right. That's right. So at what point along the way did you start considering yourself an activist or an advocate or a political artist, or was that from day one?
So I think in my early 20s, you start to become aware of the world, and it isn't just a little bubble of friends and around you as a teenager. You become aware of the rest of the world and what a fucked up place it is. Yeah. So you start to pick your, you know, things that you feel strongly about. So I've been collaborating with Jenny Holzer since the mid-'80s. Jenny Holzer is one of the top female artists of America altogether. So I'm honored to be collaborating with her still. So she brought me out to an activist thing where women were protesting arms being sent to Central America, and the mothers were protesting this and such, and it was women. I took up with a bunch of women protesting war. And, you know, I'm seeing an unjust war for no reason. People are dying, no reason. And that happens a lot lately. And, you know, so I'm feeling empathy. I was feeling empathy for things that are going wrong in the world and so on. Then I start to see things going wrong in my own backyard. You know, I was living with my girlfriend and I was encountering a lot of hostility to being, you know, LGBTQ. So I got to know that real well, and I painted about that. I have a love for animals, and they don't have a voice. So, you know, the cruelty to animals, something strong, I've painted about that, and so on. You know, in my early 20s, you become aware of the world. And, you know, either you are an activist or you're just going to paint little decorative things that don't mean anything. That's fine, but that's fine too. That's all good.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when you find your voice, right, and you've got to use it.
I feel that you got to use it. Not everyone has got courage. So not only the fine art, but we paint murals. And that is a huge platform. Right now, I just got my assistant did a portrait of Kamala Harris yesterday. My husband did the word vote, and we're going to do more Kamala Harris kind of stuff for the following month, because we have a voice. We can express it now. Having a difficult time finding locations where I can put this stuff up without the opposing candidates, people coming to destroy it all. But that can happen. I'm prepared. But, you know, I have a voice, I have a platform, and I'm going to use it ruthlessly.
Yes. Bravo, give it up. Woo! Was there a day or a time when you remember thinking to yourself, you found your voice? Was it like, as you were emerging and coming through and growing up, do you feel like you were in touch with your voice then, or was there a point in time where you realized that, no, I found my voice now?
I don't know if I ever came to realize that, you know, I have a voice now. I've got something to say. Until I was doing a political piece in Minneapolis, a Statue of Liberty, looking like a whore, and the police came twice about my anti-government propaganda that I was painting, and I'm like, now I got it right. If the police has got to show up and concerned about the little monkey that looked like President Bush, I'm like, this is a free country. We can do all that. We can do all that. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye now. So that's when I realized I have a voice, and I'm using it, and it's making a difference and such. But
what year was that?
Oh, got to be about 10 years, 15 years ago. Not that long ago.
Yeah. No, that's powerful. That's absolutely powerful. You know, you came up in a time in New York that people love to fantasize about and talk about and of course you were there. And people tend to forget the negative stuff and romanticize the glamour of Studio 54 or what have you. I mean, you were in Studio 54. You were there. You were hanging out with Basquiat and Warhol and all the legends. Take us back. What was that like?
Boy, it was a whirlwind of activity every night, a party or a nightclub. We were already celebrities as teenagers and had our names on all the guest lists for all the nightclubs that we could come. They wanted us in there. They wanted us in the VIP lounge and such. So they were giving us, liquor and drugs as teenagers. They were showering us with that kind of stuff, as well as money. Our paintings were selling like no tomorrow. We had big bank accounts, but we were also told that the art market is fickle. The fads change, and you could be selling work now, and then you won't sell again, later. So you might have to find a job eventually or something. We were like, whoa. So we're gonna ride this, party as it happens, and there's just so much going on that we can't imagine that this is ever going to end. I'm at 17 years old, hanging out with a rich person's house with Andy Warhol. And he beckons me towards him past his security people and tells me he liked me in that movie Wild Style. He actually saw it and really enjoyed it and such. So it was surreal. And no, I didn't know who Andy Warhol was at that age.
Yeah.
But the grown-ups around me were acting really weird, like, yo, that is the man. That is the man. I'm like, okay, I guess that's the man, if you say so. But at that age, you're really quite ignorant, not knowing what's going on. And Basquiat asked me to walk through one of his paintings on the wet paint and leave my little footprints behind. I was going to art school, but I was learning traditional art, normal art, like clean lines, perfect stuff. And there's this guy doing some bizarre, crazy, insane abstract work. And now he's asking me to walk through his wet painting. Okay, so I did it, still thinking, man, that guy was crazy. But, eventually it became the biggest thing in the world. So I had no idea the impact of any of that was going on. It was just fun for the ride. Yeah. My sister was coming along. She was not a graffiti writer, but she was seeing all those cute guys I was hanging out with, and she needed to date some of them. So, I had her coming along, and for that, it was just fun. And every single day was something different. Right. There was nothing, no amount of being bored. And I don't know how we managed to have such a busy social life without, cell phones or anything like that. Eventually, when answering machines came along, my answering machine was just full of messages from so much business and travel opportunities and sales and everything. There was just so much business going on, and I was still a kid in high school. It was amazing.
Incredible. That's amazing. Yeah, right on. Yeah, so in terms of making that money, when you're in it, looking back, it all seems so inevitable, right? People ask you, and I've heard interviews, with you, it's like people say, well, Lady Pink, what was it like making history? And you said, we didn't know it at the time. You're just living.
No, we didn't know that we were making history, but there were some adults that, hinted to us that this could stay around for a while. So we were given advice about business a little bit, save your money, invest your money, be good to your fans. Without your fans, you are nobody, and all these kinds of little tidbits of how to get by. But I did have a bank account as a teenager, and of course I squandered it on travel, my entourage, my friends, drugs and whatever the hell it is. That's what kids do. Yeah. You just squander your money.
Well, you were just kids being kids.
Yeah.
Right? You weren't trying to make history. This was just how you were living, trying to be cool.
This was just fun for the moment. So nowhere imagined that it would be history, but nevertheless, we were told to collect your own work. Yep. Don't sell everything that you possibly have. There's a lot of advice for long-term artists. So, we were unsure. But we did lose a lot of friends by the wayside. They did not learn business. They could not learn to trust white people, get the chip off the shoulder from the ghetto. They could not make it. Although talented that they were, they just could not get along in the above-ground world. Only some of us are still left standing.
Right. So when you think about cataloging your work, and you've been an artist your whole life, and archiving your work, what are you doing? 'Cause I feel like so many artists don't think about that or don't take that part seriously, what advice would you give them, and what are you doing to make sure that you're archiving and cataloging your work for the future?
So no, I wasn't taking care of my archiving or keeping a record of my paintings. At most, I would try to get a photo of the piece before I went out the door and never came back.
Right.
You know, but when I married my husband 30 years ago, he started cataloging all my work and hunting down my paintings, photos of them, titles of them. And it turned out that like one painting, I would give it 5 titles because I couldn't remember what the title was. So he thought he was chasing down 5 paintings, turned out to be 1. But nevertheless, I have a spreadsheet people.
Right.
Keep a list of all your work, the sizes, the years, the dimensions, who it's sold to if you know, and the price, so that you don't have to keep making up a price every time someone asks you, what is that, how much that painting costs. So spreadsheets, people. Keep a list. I have an assistant who updates all of that and keeps record of all that. So I've had a list of all my work, the prints, the canvases, everything I've ever made has been listed and recorded. And up to this day, I keep getting photos of pieces that I've done that I never recorded. But as soon as I see it, I know I did that. That's mine. And how could I forget? Some stuff I've received that is not mine. No way. Absolutely not. Look at this horrible stuff. Don't even attribute it to me. And I have to be very vocal about that. Not mine.